Does manifestation work? Does manifestation work? Well, if there's any question about it, let me just show you this. Okay, I know that really doesn't tell you anything. It's a little rubber duck, but there is actually a backstory behind this. Now, this might knock your socks off, it might not, but let me tell you about this, okay? Because I'm at a point in life where it's time to level up. It's time to move to the next level. And even though I've experienced a good amount of success for being the person that I am up to now, I crave more. I desire more in life. I have goals, I have ambitions that are going to take me to this ultra high successful level. But before I can get there, it appears that I'm going to have to eat a little bit of crap for a while. And that is why I'm now turning to spirituality to aid me in this process. Now, let me tell you, I haven't always been the most spiritual person in my life, okay? Especially if it's anything having to do with organized religion, even though I do give it the respect that it deserves. But when it comes to spirituality, I've always felt that it exists. I've understood it. I've recognized it for what it is. I just haven't practiced it regularly. And now I'm just at that point in life where I'm saying, I want to try this. I want to see if I can actually manifest, put my thoughts, put my mind, and put my actions to the test and see if in the course of 1 year I can dramatically transform my life. And I'm not talking about going out and getting another job and having this, like, you know, it's a great job, you know, the same level of excitement that everybody has when they're starting a new job, and having it, you know, it pays $5,000 more than my last job and I get an extra 2 days off. It's a win-win. You know, I really don't want that, but I've got a backstory, and then I've got a story that I need to start off with regarding this duck. So, not too long ago, I was listening to videos on YouTube on manifestation. And this one woman who is a, you know, just like a lot of these spiritual instructors, she says, hey, go to my website. I've got this manifestation test I want you to take. And in 5 minutes or less, you'll be able to manifest something that you'll see in a matter of days. I'm like, okay, small investment, rich payout, because honestly, it is a rich payout, right? If you manifest something and you see that something, then you will be convinced of its efficacy, right? So I go to the website, I take the test. Now, this isn't a written test. This is a visualization guide, okay? It's not even a test per se. It's just a visualization guide. And what she did was, she said, I want you to picture one of two things. And now, of course, you could pick anything you want, but she said, I want you to picture either a drum set or a rubber duck. And the reason why she picked these is because these are not the most common things that you would see on a daily basis, unless, you know, you have like a family member who's in a band and you go out to watch them regularly, or you enjoy going out every Friday night. You had to pick the lesser of the two things that you have the greatest level of, you know, what's the good word I'm looking for? You don't want to have that coincidence. It needs to be more than coincidence, all right? It needs to be proof that this exercise has actually worked. So we went into this visualization exercise. She walked me through this, and this was not a direct one. It's just a video. So she walks you through, and she's talking about the visualization of the duck and the manifesting of the duck and the talking about the duck and the holding the duck. Really just a strong visualization exercise where she's having you word for word, detail for detail, just talk and think about this rubber duck. Now, in my head, I pictured the traditional rubber duck, the yellow rubber duck with the orange bill, the blue eyes, you know, with the little hole in the bottom, even in my head, seeing the detail on the bottom of Made in China, right? So I have, obviously, like most of us, seen a rubber duck in my life, so I was able to piece together that imagery pretty easy. And I did the visualization exercise. It took 5 minutes. And then, of course, when I'm done with it, I'm done with it. I close the site. I go about my life. Now, she said at the end of that video, in the next 2 days, you will see a rubber duck. In the next 2 days. How could this woman who I've never met. I didn't even speak to her. This was just a video she posted. How could this woman know unless she was convinced of the absolute certainty of manifestation? So I go to sleep that night, and this wasn't during the night. It was actually during the day that I did this exercise, probably around 1 or 2 p.m. I go to sleep that night. The next morning I wake up, just kind of laying in bed, and what do I see when I open up my phone and I go into Facebook that day? I'm scrolling through and I see profiles of people that I could add as friends, people that I might know, and one person had their profile photo set as a rubber duck. Now I'm thinking, wow, oh my God, what a coincidence, right? She said I would see a rubber duck within the next 2 days, and literally the next morning, when I get on social media, I'm scrolling, somebody's got their profile picture set as that traditional yellow rubber duck with the orange bill. I was blown away. That was enough to blow me away, but that wasn't the end of it. So that night, I go out to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to do some flight training with some friends, and that night we decided to go out for dinner at a bar in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Now, we go to this bar, and instead of getting a table because the place was packed, we ended up going and sitting at the bar, and I sat at the end with one of my friends. You know, it was with a group of them, but I was sitting next to this one friend, second from the end. And we just happened to be next to the drink station, or not far from the drink station, but literally, and I didn't even see this right away, literally within probably 2 feet of me was a bucket full of rubber ducks. This, which is why I asked the waitress if I could have one of them, and of course she said yes. Now, what are the odds of that? The profile picture alone is one thing, but this is just amazing to me. It was literally less than 48 hours. I would say it was probably somewhere closer to 30 hours that this actually happened. I was knocked off my feet by it, because I had exactly pictured the yellow duck, the orange bill. I could feel it. I could sense it. I could see that hole in the bottom. I could see the made in China on it. I could see the eyes. I could see everything about it. And yes, I manifested this duck. Take it for what you will. You might say it's a coincidence. You might just say, come on, it's potential. But honestly, I can honestly say that in my 44 years of living, of course I couldn't tell you what I was doing before the age of like 5 or 6, but I have been to restaurants, I have been to bars like everyone, hundreds, maybe thousands of times, and never, ever in the 44 years have I ever sat down next to a bucket full of rubber ducks. I don't think I've ever actually seen a rubber duck at a bar. So you be the judge. I'm just here to tell you that it made a believer out of me. And like I said, I've always believed that manifestation is an accurate thing, that it actually is a thing. But now it was almost like the universe dropped me in front of that video. It was like it dropped me in front of that website, and it was like it was showing me, saying, yes, it's real, you can do this, now put your mind to work. Now, I've had this philosophy for, God, it must be 2 years now. It just occurred to me at some point, right? We've got animals in the world, but it's difficult to say if animals have an imagination. I'm somebody who believes that the universe is energy, right? It's vast. Think about this. I mean, you think about the distance to the next galaxy, the next Sirius galaxy, that's Andromeda, over 1 trillion miles away. Trillions of miles away. I mean, we're talking distance that you can't even contemplate. And there are billions and billions of galaxies in the viewable galaxy or universe. That means the universe that we cannot see, that extends beyond to God only knows how far. We don't know. We are just this speck of dust, this energy, this body, this flesh suit on this ball floating in vast nothingness, living on the surface of this ball, floating in the middle of this vast nothingness that are powered and energized by energy. It's an amazing thing, right? So I believe that we are energy, and I believe that the reason that we have an imagination is to create. I think that the point of life is to live, to experience, but also to be able to create in physical form. Because I do believe that we are much greater than ourselves. I do believe that we are vast. I do believe that we never die, we never truly die, that we actually just move on. You know, once we leave our physical bodies, that our energy just dissipates and it goes out to the source, and the source being the universal energy. Now, you might have a different belief, but for me, that is what I believe. I believe that we continue to go on. I don't believe there is such thing as a thoughtless death, that it's just lights out and you go into a box in the ground, or you go into a crematorium and you become ashes. I don't believe that that is the case. I believe that we have an imagination because we have the potential to create. Because what other reason would we have for having this imagination? Now, I do remember getting into some studying back in the day, and I remember reading this book about the origins of human consciousness and the bicameral brain, right? That means when man finally or initially became conscious of the voice in his head being thoughts, right? Because before that, we were probably just like a lot of animals out here, just acting on impulse, acting on things that we respond to. You know, the cat sees a mouse and the cat's going to respond to that. The cat feels like taking a nap, the cat takes a nap. We humans put a lot more thought into everything that we do. But we can also torture ourselves with our thoughts because we're not using our imagination for the right purpose. But I do believe that as humans, we live this existence to be able to create, to be able to remember how to create. And that is probably the most difficult thing in this life, is remembering that we have the ability to create, to build this world around us. Now, that doesn't mean that I can just say, there's a castle on the east side of the city that is mine, and all of a sudden I just manifest it. What I do believe, and of course I'm just saying that I believe this, which is what I've been saying for the last 5 minutes, I believe, is that when you couple intention, meaning your thoughts, your visualization, your imagination, when you couple that with action, that is when you get the result. Now, did I put any action into getting a rubber duck, to finding a rubber duck? No, I did not. Other than the intention that was full of action. It was more, you know, it's believing. Everything has to be believable too. So to be able to build a castle 2 minutes away from here would seem impractical. There's labor that goes into that. There's wood, there's stone, there's ground, there's everything that you can imagine. There's so many different things that need to go into building that. But the idea of being able to come into contact with a rubber duck seems so much more possible, because what? It's just a cheap little rubber duck. There's no thought behind it. There's nothing in my brain that contradicted it. There was nothing in my brain that said, well, that's not possible. That's probably not going to happen. I mean, honestly, you can't put these two on the same level, a castle and a duck. If I wanted to imagine a castle, there's a much more rational part of me that says, great, that sounds awesome. That would be great to manifest that over time, but we know that it's going to take time. Maybe you will live in a castle. Maybe you will buy a castle one day if you're filthy rich in the future, but that's going to take time. A rubber duck I could bump into by coincidence, and that's exactly what happened. So again, that is what I believe. I believe that the whole purpose of us being here is to create, and that is what we should strive to do, to use this imagination that we use for the wrong purpose most days to create for us. And when I say that we use it in the wrong way every day, think about this. You know, I've been in relationships throughout my life where I've constantly tortured myself. I'll be the first to admit I'm an anxious attachment person, you know. And a lot of that I tie back to my youth. I tie that back to my child because of the childhood, because of the connection with my mother, which was never a good one. I never had that sense of being loved. I never had that sense of being cared for. So I do have that feeling in a relationship that I'm often being rejected, that I'm being abandoned, and it's a painful thing. And it's never unjust. It's never unjustified. If I'm in a solid, very happy, very comfortable relationship, and I know that the person is, a good person, that they make effort, I don't have those feelings. But not every person responds to your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings the way that you would like them to. So, other than one, maybe two relationships in my life with those people who are emotionally mature people, those two women, the others that I've dealt with, that I've dated, have been emotionally immature women. They've always been people who are never fully able to respond to my emotions. But when I say that, I don't mean that I'm a very anxious individual that's constantly texting and calling, and I need to be with them all the time, and I need to know their location, and I'm insanely jealous, because that's not the case. But what I do expect in a relationship is to have somebody who actually responds maturely to things. Somebody who says, hey, that's a very valid point. I can work on that, or we can work on that together. And the communication is strong, the relationship is strong, the intimacy is strong. All these parts have to come together. When they're not there, there's that feeling of anxiety. Now, how does that tie into the imagination? Well, just like everybody, we sit there and we imagine worst case scenarios throughout the day. I've literally had to yell at my brain sometimes to just shut up, because there's times where you'll be going through a fight in a relationship where you don't talk to each other for a day or two, and your mind just jumps to the worst case scenario, and that's how we torture ourselves. And it's the same thing. Maybe you're working in a job that you don't like and you really want to get a new job, or you can't stand your boss, but instead of just trying to maneuver out of that situation, to work with a new situation, to find an alternative, you decide that you're just going to sit there and torture yourself with thoughts and feelings, and you're going to imagine the worst case scenario, and you're going to project that energy out into your environment and attract it back to you. So we'll talk more about that. But right now, I just wanted to tell you that is what I believe. I believe that our imaginations create our reality, and that's the only reason why we have an imagination, is for the strict purpose of visualization. If we can visualize something and we can couple that with action, we can build something in our lives, and it's unlimited. We can continue. The sky's the limit. You look at all these success stories throughout history, and people have always coupled thought with action and succeeded. Of course, perseverance is a big part of that, but they've done it, right? They've managed to put all those pieces together, and through endurance, through perseverance, they made it. It took them a little while, but they made it. Not everyone is an overnight success. Most people are not an overnight success. So that's what I believe. And that's what I'm here to tell you today, is that this was, for me, just another confirmation that manifestation is possible. Give it a shot.